What's up, Knicks fans? We are so excited to announce that this summer, Fanatics Fest is returning to New York City, taking over the Javits Center from Thursday, July 16th to Sunday, July 19th. Meet your favorite athletes from every major league, including current New York Knicks like Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Knicks legend Patrick Ewing. Catch live podcasts and panels featuring some of the biggest names in sports while experiencing interactive activations from top leagues and brands. You can grab exclusive merch and discover one-of-a-kind memorabilia from sports and entertainment. Buy, sell, and trade collectibles with hundreds of top dealers. Connect with fans around the world who share your passion for sports. Tickets are on sale now at fanaticsfest.com. And when you use promo code Knicks Film 10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your purchase. It's an extra day of the world's #1 sports fan festival coming together under one roof, and you don't want to miss it.
Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I am Jonathan Macri, and we are pleased that you could join us for this postgame show after we just did a watch-along, very fun watch-along. There it is. I was about to do it for you, Mark. And I did that watch-along, of course, with my friend and colleague, DJ Zullo, who joins me for the start of this one. Hi, DJ.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm great, man. That was a fun basketball game to watch with you. I always enjoy them, win or lose. Obviously, when with a win, much sweeter. And in a game that I feel like, you've talked about this team, especially compared to last year, racking up really impressive wins. This one obviously isn't on the upper echelon in terms of impressive wins, but impressive nonetheless. A Raptors team that did not want to lose fourth straight to the Knicks, at least this season. I know their losing streak goes back a little bit farther than that. They came out aggressive, hungry for a win, and the Knicks were able to, in a fourth quarter, put their foot on the Raptors' neck and didn't let go until the final buzzer, and it was a really impressive win for the Knicks.
Perfect encapsulation. In my mind, there are three types of wins. Actually, there's four types of wins in an NBA season. I erased the fourth category from my memory, which are games that you actually more feel like a loss. The one that I will always remember is the day after Thanksgiving game against the Hornets last year. Which is probably the worst game of Mikal Bridges' Knick career. So that's category one. Category two is like just regular wins, like that you are not completely forgettable, but like that you're not going to remember much about years from now unless you're Andrew Claudio, because he remembers everything. Like the Bucks win on Friday, for instance, is like one of those games. Mm-hmm. Category one is the wins you're going to remember for years, like Cavs on Christmas, like the NBA Cup final. It's probably been a couple other ones this year. And then there's category two, which I put this one in, which is like, you might not remember them offhand, but then when somebody will be like, oh yeah, remember when the Knicks went on a 16-2 run against the Raptors? Oh yeah, RJ had quickly had it going and they had notions and the Knicks were just like, nope. This is one of those wins. So, you love them. They're fun wins to get.
And it's sort of what I like about it, and it kind of encapsulates what this team has really honed in on, and it's the defensive connectivity. I felt like in this one, in particular,
exactly
they had
a game to start.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page. So I'm just going to run with it. They had a game plan that was specific to each Raptors player. So it was like, Ingram, let's be more aggressive at the level. We're not going to give up that easy walk-in mid-range shot. Let's keep everything to the side as they've been doing with Barnes. If he's handling, let's go under the screen because we're going to happily give up pull-up three to Scotty Barnes. With Quickly, it was a little bit different. With RJ, a little bit different. I felt like they had really strong game plans that was unique to each Raptors player. Yep. And just overall, like the fact that they were so aggressive at keeping the ball to the side, not just with how they were icing it, but also where they were bringing the help and kind of pinching in to be more aggressive, like put feet in the paint, force the pass over the top, put yourself in a little bit of rotation. But if it's not Emmanuel Quickly spotting up, we're okay with maybe being a little bit short on that closeout. So I just felt like the Knicks, time and time again, I just keep going back to it. In comparison to last year, the big difference with how this team is defending is how connected they are and how well they're playing on a string, which, as we know, was not always the case last year. It hasn't always been the case this year, but we've now gotten a good sample size of it being the case, and that's a great sign for this team's potential moving on towards April, May, June.
I think you could count on one hand. Maybe you need an extra finger or two. The number of like truly busted possessions, defensive possessions in this game. Like there was the one where we both said it in real time where Quickly did have the spot up where it's like, oh, the one guy you can't lose track of. But even like RJ's little stretch down or nice run down the stretch, like those were good shots. Those were like quality shots from a 20-point per game scorer in the NBA. That sometimes, as we know very well here in New York, sometimes gets it going. Look, you said sample size. They've been the number one defense last 18 games. I'm pretty sure now they're going to be the number one defense in the league over the last 19 games. Tomorrow night will be a different animal, different challenge. But we'll save that conversation for when we get to it. I think that has to be the lead story is how well this team is playing on defense. And I think you summed it up very well. Before we move on to some of the individual efforts, and this is actually kind of going to be a leeway because how much do you think it is the connectivity as you talked about, and how much do you think it is some of their, or not even just some of their weaker defenders, just their all of their players playing more up to their level, and that goes for the OGs and McCalls of the world, all defense caliber players, and obviously the Jalen Brunsons, and in particular the Karl-Anthony Towns of the world.
Yeah, well, let's just stick with the two weak, quote unquote, weak spots on the defense, because we both commented Cat had at least two vertical rim contests, really didn't get blocks on either one of them, but was clearly a deterrent and just stayed straight up, forced the offensive player to go through him, forced two misses. I think JB has been just really good as a weak side help defender. The charges are obviously been a huge boost to his individual defense and the team's defense over the past couple of weeks, but he just feels like less of a sieve on that end. Yeah. But it really is the three wings that you just have to go back to. And listen, right now it is really obvious like what Josh Hart is able to do on the defensive end, just getting into the basketball and like how much it's jumping off the page. Like and I've talked a lot about how he is able against bigger wings that, he's not great against small, quicker players, but if you put him up against a guy that he can move with, he does a really good job of leveraging his strength and his low center of gravity. Like he'll get his right arm typically like right in the midsection of the offensive player and just get underneath him. And time and time again, he was able to do that against Brandon Ingram and just bother his shooting space. It's really disconcerting when you're shooting and a guy is like right in your shooting zone. And Hart did a really good job in that way. I've talked to you about this on the watch along. I think Mikal has been, and you were right to point out a trough there with the team defensively, but consistently like an A- defender, which is a super high bar for a guy, any player in the league. We're talking about like maybe not all defense, but like a tier below that. And he just has been that way. And if you're going to be aggressive and flood the zone to an offensive player's side to provide that extra help at the rim, you're going to put yourself in rotation. And has there been a better player in the league recently than Mikal Bridges of getting out to shooters, contesting, controlled, but aggressive? Call. He just does. He's kind of met that beautiful combination of being aggressive with his closeouts, but also not creating these blow-by scenarios where you're really getting broken down. And then OGs. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. OG was OG tonight, of course, against his old team. Only took 6 shots. Would have been nice if he maybe took one more, but I'll leave that for later. The thing with Brad, this is why we need you doing what you do and giving everything an extra watch, because he's a version of Cat in this sense. Cat could do so many great things, and we're going to talk about him very shortly because I think this was an exceptional Cat game, and I would say there's a lot of stories of the post All-Star break for the Knicks. I think the number one story is probably Karl-Anthony Towns. Again, we'll get to him in a second. But he is, as we always talk about with Cat, the loud stuff. Some of the stuff is so loud, and the loud stuff overshadows, even if there's a lot more of the quieter stuff, the loud stuff is so loud that it overshadows it. It's the same thing with Bridges. When Bridges, when we see him, like in the first game out of the break, Cade calls for the switch to get Bridges on him, and Cade like drills a jumper on him or whatever. Would be like, this is the guy we've traded for 5 first-round picks. Those plays happen from time to time, but there's so much more of the stuff that you're talking about. And when he has a game like he did tonight, and again, you look at the stat line. Stat line's not going to blow you away from Mikal Bridges, but everything he's doing on the other end of the court, it makes him, it shows the value there.
Yeah, and I won't forget it because I remember when they traded for him, like all the work I did about him guarding point guards and like his on the ball defense and point of attack. Like Knicks finally lose Grimes and they finally have a guy to replace that skill set that they just weren't able to figure out the 23-24 season in the playoffs. And quickly it became apparent that Bridges really wasn't up to that task at that level.
Yep.
But the beauty of what Mike Brown has done is that he's now moved him off the ball in a much more prioritized way, and just leveraging that strength. Like, all right, listen, man, 7-foot wingspan. If you're in loaded up and help, like you could be in basically 2 spots at the same time, impact the closeout, impact the pass. His steals have gone way up this year. So he's been empowered to be aggressive. You've seen the rear contest shot block. I had another one tonight. Just been a consistently excellent defensive season for him. Strength-wise, you saw RJ go through him at times. That's going to be something that he's going to give up. Cade is a tough matchup for him, but we don't have to worry about that at least tonight. But going forward, man, he just is such off-ball value as a defensive player that his floor as a producer of like impactful minute-to-minute NBA basketball is super high because of what he can do on that end.
But that's the thing, and that's why and let's save Towns. Let's go back to Hart to talk about the 3 wings in tandem, because if you have an OG Anunoby playing at the level that we know that he is playing at right now, he could take the Cade. I know he did not do well against Cade in the last matchup, but it was his first game back from injury, and I think that was probably an anomaly in retrospect. Like he could take that matchup, leaving Bridges to do what, like, not have to deal with that. And then if you could also have Hart as part of the equation, like tonight we saw Hart on Barnes on a couple of occasions. He had a really nice stop on Barnes in the last several minutes of the game as the Knicks were going on the 16-2 run to close it out. All 3 of those guys, like, just filling their roles. And to stick on Hart for a second, I thought he was the best player in the game tonight. And I kept saying it as the game was going on. I'm like, is it just me, or is he playing a really good game? And I know he started out very quietly. He had a Frank Ntilikina line in the first quarter, but ends up with 12, 7, and 7, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Like, I don't know how many 12, 7, 7, 3, 2 games Josh Hart has had this year. It can't be that many.
No, it can't be. No, not especially the steals and the blocks. Only the 2 turnovers.
Yep.
The pass to Bridges that we both commented in real time, 95-93.
2-point game. Yep.
Knicks were only up 2. Raptors making a push. And because the Raptors, this is like where the connectivity on the offensive end becomes really important, because obviously what do the Raptors love to do? Like get hyper aggressive in your face, like ball denial, like really try to make things uncomfortable. We saw Brunson really struggle with that at times. Hart's handling the ball. Bridges, one of the best cutters in the league, reads it, back cut. Hart hits him. And if you go back and watch that play, it wasn't like they were like closely contained. Hart made that pass from pretty far away and led Bridges perfectly for a 2-handed dunk. That was obviously a great Kickstarter for a huge Knicks 16-2 run. And yeah, Hart's passing and playmaking in general, the rebounding, the loose balls, the offensive rebounds that he was able to just take away from the Raptors and just kind of break their will at the end. Classic Josh Hart stuff there. Phenomenal game. I agree with you. I thought he was the best overall Knick on both sides consistently in that game. And it's just one of those occasions where I commented, Raptors down 14, RJ's going for a loose ball, and Hart is just outworks him.
Yeah.
Outworks him, gets the ball. RJ is on the team that is up down 14. You think he'd be the desperate one. No, Hart's the desperate one. And that's just the skill of playing at that level and intensity and effort where it's just part of your DNA. And that was a great example of that. And just a classic Hart performance and close to that game.
And it's more, you're talking about that play, and it kind of hits me. First of all, that was Hart's first 5 stock game of the season. So yes, this is his first time he's had this particular stat line. But like, seeing him snatch the ball away from Pirtle there on the possession where they had the 2 offensive rebounds that ended with I think the Cat long 2 again during that run. But like, him being the first of that ball on the baseline over RJ, look, it's an overgeneralization, but like, as we saw it in the fourth quarter of this game, when he kind of put the team on his back, RJ has talents as a scorer that like Josh Hart just doesn't have. And like, that's why he got drafted 3rd. And that's why the Knicks invested a lot of time and energy into him. But there was also a reason that something changed about this team when they traded for Josh Hart, and all of a sudden Josh Hart started basically not, taking RJ's role, but like when like the beginning of the end for RJ was really when they traded for Josh Hart,
Yes, it was.
And it's because it is what they needed for the team more than what RJ brought. And obviously there's been other evolutions since then. Julius went out, Cat came in, the whole thing, but it's very, it's interesting snapshot moment there on the,
it
on
was
the baseline.
And we should say, to be fair, Hart, I think a couple of possessions he was guarded by a center, really wasn't in this one. And I know we were going to talk about Cat. Maybe it's a good transition. Cat,
let's talk about Cat now. Yeah.
Had the luxury, and we'll have to call it a luxury now until we see it more consistently, but guarded by a center. So you saw, I think, him take advantage of that at times, but it does, make it more difficult for the whole offense as a whole when teams do put the X5 on Hart. They didn't have to deal with it today, but it goes to show you that they're, not every team is equipped to do that. They don't have a Wembanyama that can be so dominant as a roamer. So it is a good reminder that, yes, this is probably the best scheme to defend the Knicks, but there are a few teams that can actually do it and feel comfortable doing it. And that also needs to be said as well.
Yeah. And look, as people will surely point out, the Knicks are probably going to need to go through multiple of those teams once they get to the postseason. Yeah. So it's not like, we're sitting here keeping our fingers crossed. Again, I will give a shameless plug for you. Go watch DJ's video that he just put up on Patreon, because it shows how exactly the Knicks kind of figured it out in real, and Josh Hart specifically figured it out in real time against San Antonio, which, it's the, if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. If you could figure it out against the Spurs, you could figure it out against, pretty much anyone. Cat, were there a couple of frustrating moments in the game? There was the 3 possession stint in when was that, second quarter, where it was just kind of weird.
One complete Cat possession where he dribbled the ball up court and never passed it.
No, it was very strange. And then that was followed by, I think, an offensive foul.
Yeah.
There was that, and then there were a couple times where they couldn't get him the ball. No, that's not, again, as it was in every game, that's not all on Cat. Like, a little bit is on Cat, part of it's on his teammates, part of it's on who else is out there on the court, who were people helping off of the whole thing. But like, there is just so much good happening with Towns right now. And like, what's the stat line tonight? 21 points, 10 of 17 from the field, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. I didn't even realize he had 6 assists. How about this? 6 assists from Cat, 7 assists from Hart, 10 assists from Jalen Brunson. Quiet 10 assists for Jalen.
Really was. Knicks, we both were on it first 2 possessions, how well the Knicks were passing the ball and just moving it, which is a prerequisite against this Raptors team. Knicks did a really nice job, and Cat was a big part of that. 6 dimes for him.
You got credit with 1 steal and 1 block. He's just playing really well.
Steal, just right. And that, again, I talked about Bridges having a high floor because of the defensive value. I think we have to listen. Towns is not a Bridges level defender in terms of the impact, although there are certain defensive metrics that would argue against that. But there is something to be said about him having kind of locked into this space now defensively, where it just feels like there's competency as like the baseline, and he'll be tested in different ways in the playoffs, and we'll have to see if he can maintain this sort of impact. But it just feels like there's rarely possessions where defensively there's massive issues on that end. Completely. There are times where he just is in the wrong spot, and like you could see Hart or Bridges, those 2 specifically, will kind of call him out. You'll see it on the broadcast where like you should have been, or we shouldn't have switched here, or you are on the wrong side of the screen there. That stuff still happens, and you kind of have to, that stuff just baked into the Cat experience. But there is just, the defensive rebounding and the rim protection, even if it's kind of like below the rim protection, like he's just a big body that is being better at just being in the way, getting his chest in front of the ball. And we know he could switch. We know he can guard in space and do a pretty good job of forcing a contested mid-range shot. And, offensively, there's still all this passive floor spacing that is there. That's another reason why, like, he'll have these stat lines. You're like, he wasn't, not tonight, but like general, like he'll have a stat line that doesn't jump off the screen, and he's like a plus 12 or plus 15. Yeah. And his plus minus, it's been shared a bunch, like how great it's been since the All-Star break.
I think it's the best.
It's because league, he's now defending at it's right up there. So he's defending at a really high level for him, but in general, like a really strong baseline. And he is obviously an elite floor spacer. Then when he's, as he did today, roll to the rim, create these pockets, because, there's times where Fred had the great article about him screening and kind of meandering and not really rolling, not really popping. Meander. Yeah, pick and meander. There you go. Tonight he was, and it started with Alvarado in the second quarter, where he's setting those screens. And the first one was like he set an initial screen, had to rescreen it because the Raptors went under the first one, rescreen, forced the over. Now you get the pocket developing. He gets the pass from Alvarado, finishes, and was able to kind of continue that momentum as a screen and roll guy with Brunson. I thought his roll game just in general was really good, because the Raptors they were switching some actions. They weren't giving him the pop on the 3. So he got to go to a second option, which is his role, which has not always been there this year, but credit to Alvarado, credit to Brunson for finding him in those occasions. And he just rolled hard. And that's another thing where you have to kind of, it's not a skill necessarily, but it takes work to roll in that way with that effort, possession after possession. And I thought Cat did a really good job of doing that.
But his offensive repertoire cannot be just drives. Like, I think we know that by now. Mm-hmm. There has to be, and we've kind of we talked about this so much with Tibbs, and we talked about it early on with Mike Brown, of like, what else are you doing to quote unquote spring him? Other than the low hanging fruit, which I think we would all agree they're still probably not doing enough of. Like, we still want to see more trail threes, which is, again, it's always a question of like, is that on Cat? Or is that on the coach? Is that on the point guard?
It's also like the defense. Probably number one priority is not giving that shot up. So we also have to like be aware that that's also part of the reason why they're not maybe materializing as much.
But having Cat, get the ball on these rolls and not have to have it be all self-generated drives, it just feels like such a boon. And then you sprinkle in the other stuff. You try to get he had that early in the game. I think he had a nice post. It was like a baby hook. I think it was one dribble left, kind of spun back over his left shoulder into the middle of the paint, and it was just beautiful hook shot with his right hand. Which he mixed that stuff in.
He mixed that in.
Real quick on Hart. tonight, 130 offensive rating with Hart on the floor, 103.1 with him off. So yeah, Hart's my player of the game. We talked about Bridges, talked about Cat, talked about Hart. OG, I don't know what else there was to say about him other than it was a really solid OG game. He did all the things you expect him to do. I want to actually finish. We don't go for that much longer. Finish on Brunson. The bench tonight, they brought energy because they always brought energy. Alvarado in particular in the second quarter brought the energy that he usually brings up.
Mm-hmm.
Not a other than Mitch, who I thought was very good. Not a banner night for any of the bench guys. And yes, that includes Diawara. We saw some great moments from Muhammad Diawara, but like as people were coming at me with pitchforks on like after the Spurs post game when I'm like trying to be like, guys, don't go writing 12 playoff rotation minutes in pen quite yet. Like a stretch like he had tonight, again, it was literally a 2-possession stretch on offense. And then the over exuberance on the perimeter coverage of Ingram that just gave up a drive. Like he's a rookie. He's going to make rookie mistakes. It's fine, but just that's, it's worth pointing out.
Yeah. I agree with you on that way. It felt like, part of it was I just didn't understand why we were not sending a screen up to help him out. Those isolation possessions, probably not. He's not at that level yet. I did think on Alvarado, it didn't sustain, but his second quarter impact I thought was huge for the game itself. Like to give the Knicks momentum. I think it was like a 13-2 or 13-4 run that he kind of helped kick off with Cat. Like that run in the second quarter, I thought was really important. Second half really turned for him in a negative way, but I do think his second quarter stint was huge for the Knicks because Brunson had not gotten going at that point.
Nope.
It felt like he kind of lifted the Knicks in a way that is what you want from your energy producing, ball hawk, but also like really, I think, intuitive distributor. And he got Mitch on a lob, mentioned the Cat rolls to the rim. Just a guy that your bigs can roll to the rim, and just I talk about this on the watch along. Feel confident that they are the number one look for him in those plays. And I feel like it's a good way for them to get going a little bit. So Alvarado's stint in the second quarter, I thought was, maybe lost the time a little bit, but an important moment for that game.
Team high plus 19 tonight.
Okay,
17 minutes.
There you go.
Let's end on JB. As we were watching, I actually said this during the watch along because I say so many smart things. Arguably, I don't know if I said the worst Nick tonight, but like the least impressive Nick. I think at the time he was 5 of 15 from the field for like 12 points or 13 points or whatever it was, and we were commenting that like. You pointed out there was a possession where like he did like the ball was in his hands the whole time and it ended with a tough mid-ranger over Barnes, and we saw a couple of those possessions. So it was just like not anything close to a classic Brunson game for the majority of the night. And yet you look up at the end, 26 points on 22 shots. Okay, not the best efficiency, but 26-10 with 1 turnover, and made every big shot in the fourth quarter because of course he did.
10 points. Yeah, 10 points on 4-7 from the field in the fourth quarter, plus 9.
The 3 to make it 100 to 93. That was probably the biggest shot of the game, I think.
And just the move, the in and out dribble with the right hand. Pirtle was playing up at the level a little bit. So Pirtle is a classic drop big that's going to typically play in a more traditional deep drop. And in this case, because Brunson is such a good pull-up shooter, played a little bit higher. Brunson freezes him with that in and out dribble, puts Pirtle on his heels, never able to contest the shot. And I think it was Shed that was guarding him, gets hit on the screen, and it's basically a wide open.
It was a Cat rescreen, right? It was 2 screens from Cat.
Might have been. Yeah, that's a good point. And so that's a second or third time Cat had that at a possession where he's now rescreening to create an opening. Listen, Barnes is a really tough defender for him because he doesn't foul. He's maniacal about keeping his hands high, which is all he's doing is telling the referees I'm not fouling, and he never fouls Brunson. And it's just he's well equipped to slide with JB, contest without fouling, and it's just a really tough matchup for him. I thought there was a moment, I think it was the fourth quarter, where Barnes goes out, Shed comes in, and Brunson immediately makes 2 mid-range shots. Might have been late third.
No, it was nope. It was the fourth, and
okay.
it was right. So Bridges hit a mid-ranger. So the Raptors went on their run. Bridges hit a mid-ranger to end the run, and it felt like a big mid-ranger in the moment. Bridges, again, only 11 points in this game. It was a big baskets, like the dunk, the off the pass from Hart, and then that midi. And then after that midi, Brunson hit 2 in a row, and it was right after Barnes had left the game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you for getting time stamping that, because it was a moment where you just saw his eyes widen with Barnes going to the bench. And as good a defender as Shed is, these are the guys, and you've seen this with Davion Mitchell when he tries to guard Brunson. They can get into his dribble, but if Brunson is able to kind of walk them to around either right or left elbow, he can just rise up over the top. And that was a case in this situation where he was able to get to his spots, make those 2 shots, got him going a little bit, got the Knicks going a little bit. But yeah, it wasn't a super impressive Brunson game, but as you said, just made every big play late in the game, was secure with the basketball, moved it well, got off it when he needed to, and played well. And despite not shooting in a way that is, typical for him. So you can win a game, maybe not play great offensively, but you can win a game with Brunson being neutralized at times is always a nice sign for your team.
I just went back and looked. Bridges and Brunson combined for the first 13 points of the fourth quarter for the Knicks.
Yeah, well, it's huge. And because there are some possessions, I think the Bridges midi was that like turnaround against Pirtle where like nothing was materializing and he just was stuck with it and
dead possession. It was nothing
dead.
Going on that possession.
They ran some, though they didn't run sets. They didn't run any offense at times in that quarter. And
when Brunson was out of that game tonight, there were a couple of gnarly possessions.
They're 100%, and it's something to monitor with. Obviously, now did play 36 minutes, so it wasn't like he played 30 or so. But I will say the minutes were interesting because just looking back at it now, Brunson played 37. 37. Okay, 37. Yeah. But everyone else was like really low. It seemed like everyone else was like around low 30s or upper 20s of the core group there. So
last thing, and shout out, we have 1,500 people watching. Appreciate all of you. Go ahead and smash that like button. Gotta smash it. That's what the kids said 10 years ago, apparently. Last thing before I let you go, OKC game tomorrow. We already know Mitchell Robinson is not going to play because it's the second night of back-to-back. Brunson played 37 tonight. How are you thinking about that game? How would you? I mean, we've had some suggestions like maybe the Knicks, not throw the game, but like maybe should they rest some guys? It's like, what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a great data collection game because the defense is going to it's going to be a roaming big on Hart. It's 100% the case. So you're going to have an opportunity there in 2 out of the last 3 games to play against a defense that is going to scheme with their ghost coverage on Hart, and you're going to get all these reps to figure out how they're going to attack it. It'll be very interesting to see if the Knicks, if and when that happens, do you still sort of get Hart in the initial screening action? Do you try to spring him in that way or spring Brunson in that way by having Hart screen if it's Holmgren guarding him or whomever it is? And how do you play it that way? How do you still get Cat part of the deal in that scenario? So just to see how they go up against that type of defense. And then, I don't know what Shea's status is going to be.
I mean, he didn't play tonight. He sat out tonight.
I assume he's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah. If he sat out tonight, I would assume he's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a fascinating matchup there because you would assume it's going to. I don't love the OG matchup there because of the quickness. I think it's going to be Bridges on him with some Alvarado sprinkled in there, probably as the primary guys on there. But it's just a really good team, a great team that you're going to kind of stack up against. So I'm not in the business of like suggesting they should throw the game or like bench guys and all that. because I think this team still needs to get reps against defenses that are going to specifically attack them by not attacking Josh Hart on offense. And you have to figure out a way to do to be really honed in on that type of defense. And if it's not working, like have counters and have options out of that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the, how they stack up.
You know that they are going to put your Dorts and your Carusos and whoever else is on Cat and put that straight up and they'll have the roaming big. I want to see if the Knicks can make something out of those possessions. That's the thing that I'm going to. It's a Hart question, but it's also a Cat question. That's what I want to see.
And now what's going to hurt is you can't throw the Mitch curveball to teams because you saw the Spurs do resort to the 5 on Mitch because they're so worried about his offensive rebounding. Now you don't have that option in this one because you can pair Mitch with Hart. And I know you're lacking shooting, but at least you're kind of locking the 5 onto Mitch. Because
listen, those lineups, I get the no shooting. Those lineups have been good.
Yeah.
Like they were good last year, and they've been good this year. Josh and Mitch together, and it's not just the defense; it's offensively because they rebound 40% of their misses. So and it's Brunson ball. Like, is it always the prettiest? No, but guess what? Jalen Brunson has a lot of experience, as
yes, he does.
Caitlin Cooper once said, going through the jungle gym. So
so you won't have that, but it's still a really good test for this team. And I think the Shea matchup is where I'm probably most interested in. Like, I don't really know how the Knicks are going to play that one. I do think it's going to be primarily Bridges, and then I know Deuce had a lot of time with him last year. Won't obviously get him this year.
Yeah.
But the thing about where the Knicks are right now is that they should feel really good about their team.
Yeah, they should.
And they should feel really good about trying to look at the rest of the season, not only in playoff seeding mode, but also like trying to develop your calluses for the playoffs.
Yep.
And that's a good place to be in. I think that's what tomorrow should be.
Very well said. Look, they're 40-22. As you said, the Knicks have every right to feel good. Same record, by the way, as after 62 games last year.
But more impressive, I would say.
The highs have certainly been higher, and they've had more of them.
Yeah. And I think that's you think you nailed it. And I think that's why I would give this team, in terms of how impressive the record feels, a bit of an edge because of the minutes being a little bit lower. So you're not honing in on like, I'm playing my best guys the majority of the 35 plus minutes. I'm going to sprinkle in players that maybe the other coach wouldn't play, and I'm going to get some really big time wins. And you think if you factor those two things, I think this team's been a little bit more impressive.
You almost wonder, because the biggest, a big difference, Cat had he was all NBA last year. He has an arguably a Hall of Fame player. That's not arguably. He's making the Hall of Fame if he just stays healthy for another couple of years. A Hall of Fame player had arguably his best offensive season. This year has not been the case, but I'll say the trials and tribulations of Karl-Anthony Towns this year have kind of forced them, whether it's you want to call it going back to the drawing board or whatever it is. There has been a reassessment of him and his role and how he's used. Maybe that is for the best, because for as good as his offensive season was last year, as we saw in the playoffs, like when teams did certain things, it was like, oh shit, what do we do now? Not to say that it completely stifled, but there were some rough moments in the playoffs. Maybe going through this now will help ease that transition into postseason basketball. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, this was fun.
This is a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Oh God, listen, man. We'll do a couple more of these before the end of the year. You are awesome. So you could see DJ soon on an upcoming episode of X's and O's at some point. I'm not sure when, but we run those fairly regularly. And yeah, like we said, we'll do another watch along at some point. Thank you, man. This was great.
Thank you. Enjoy it. Take care, everyone.
Peace, brother. All right. Now you're stuck with me. Unfortunate. Really is. Mark's here, though. In the background. He's waving. He doesn't want to say anything. Mark's like, get the fuck out of here. All right. You want to do let's do all the things we have to do, and then we'll get to super chats. Not too many things. We could start wherever you want. You start with best bets. Yeah, go for it. This is tough because OG comes out tonight. This is our best bets presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I didn't put a ton of thought into my pick tonight. I was one of the best bets. And I'm just like, oh, it's OG going against the Raptors. Yeah, 15.5 points. Absolutely. Give me the over all day long. And we're watching the game, and OG comes out, and like right from the first quarter, you're like, awesome. OG has it going tonight offensively. I would have put the over. I would have taken the over if it was 20.5 points, 25.5 points. I would have thought about taking the over. And he's cruising along. And we get to, I think it was early in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, wherever it was. And he goes to the line, and I'm like, oh, great. He has 14 points. I'm going to hit my over. I don't have to shut this one out. Of course, he makes 1 of 2 from the line, 15 points, but that's all right. He's killing it. And he doesn't take another shot the rest of the game. No, not another shot, another free throw. So I missed my over-under on OG's points by 0.5 point. Jeff gets the Karl Anthony Towns over by a couple of points here. It was a 19-point over-under. Cat ends up with 21 for the game. And then Andrew Claudio, in a somewhat similarly tough beat, had Jose Alvarado over 5.5 points, and Jose Alvarado ends up with 4. Again, great second quarter stint from Jose, and then I don't think he scored for us the game. So couple of tough beats for your boys at Knicks Film School, but we'll get him next time. And I think we're coming off of hitting our parlay. So stick with us. We won't let you down. Those are your best bets presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. Reminder, coming up on Sunday, we've been reminding you guys a lot, but we'll remind you one more time. Watch party, brunching with Brunson. We have a ton of RSVPs already. If you want to RSVP, if you want to come, we would ask you to please RSVP at tinyurl.com/KFS brunch. But we just want people to show up. And that is, of course, at Pen 6, kicks off 2:30 on Sunday. You could do a $50 bottomless brunch from 2:30 to 4 with unlimited breakfast beverages of all kinds. First 25 RSVPs get a free bucket of neutral, which looks delicious. But yeah, just come on down. There's going to be a ton of Knicks fans there. We're going to enjoy a great game against the Lakers. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you on Sunday. All right. And then last but not least, do you want to do the defensive player of the game snapshot? Or do you want to hold that? Yeah, might as well do it now. Defensive player of the game, my guy, Josh Hart, who is looking serious, solemn. I don't even know how to phrase that. A stranger than usual defensive player of the game picture because Mikal Bridges is not front and center with the peace sign. Jalen Brunson has blocked him. Like the moon blocking the sun during a solar eclipse. And then you got a bunch of Knicks looking very serious. Jeremy Sohan, Tyler Kolek, Jordan Clarkson, Cat. Is anyone smiling? No one's smiling. Diawara, Mo was smiling in the back. He didn't get the memo. But everybody else looking very solemn. Nice pick. Good stuff. The pick does go hard. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay, let's do it. Fun night. Fun. Team's playing well right now. Team's playing well. And something about 40 wins. It's not 50 wins, but I was like 40 wins. All right, we got a handful of super chats from before the end of the game. So we'll get through those first. Bulldog basketball promo starts us off. Is Toronto our easiest possible first-round matchup? I know they've beaten us, or I don't think they've beaten us since the OG trade. Would prefer them over Orlando, Philly, or Miami. So 12 straight wins against the Toronto Raptors. They have not beaten the Knicks since the OG trade. That the streak actually goes back from, I think, from before that trade even. It's funny because the Raptors, I feel like, kicked the shit out of us for a very long time. So your potential first round playoff matchups, you nailed it. Although it might not end up that way because you got to remember the play-in. Listen, this might sound insane. I think I would rather play the Raptors over. Maybe it's not sound insane. I would rather play the Raptors instead of the Hornets. I would rather play the Raptors instead of the Sixers. Man, just the notion of having to go play an Eric Spoelstra coach team in the playoffs, I don't love that. So I guess I would pick the Raptors over the Heat. And then that leaves the Magic. Now the Magic may have quit on their coach. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you saw the recent back and forth comments between Jamal Mosley and Paolo Banchero. Like, there is clearly a disconnect right now within that locker room. Would not surprise me if the Magic pulled a Mike Malone / Taylor Jenkins. You know, those guys getting fired at the end of last season, like right before the playoffs, would not shock me. And yet, if they get Franz back healthy and Suggs is actually healthy, like all of a sudden that becomes a very, very just a difficult team to play. And you might say a dangerous team. So I guess I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I would rather play the Raptors than any of those teams. That's, I guess, the one team that is probably given a little bit too much credit for to is Miami. But again, it's the Spo factor. So, yeah. Sorry, very disrespectful to the Raptors. I don't know if any Raptors fans are listening to this, but I'm sure they're gonna feel very disrespected. I apologize. Thanks for starting us off there, Bulldog Boxing promo. Hannibal Miles, what's up, man? It's such a joy to watch when Cat plays smart. Yeah, he's playing smart. He's playing within himself. He's engaged. And in particular, he's engaged on the defensive end, which is the more important, probably, barometer for success for this team. And he's doing that. Absolutely. Thanks, man. Iceman Sham, what's going on, man? With all due respect to the Raptors, this is one of the few Knicks games I was never worried about losing. I don't when RJ went on the run and then quickly capped it with a I forget if it was a mini or a runner or something. When it got within 2, I was slightly concerned. I don't know if I would say that I actually thought we were going. I never thought we were going to lose the basketball game tonight. Even early on, I didn't think we were going to lose the basketball game when the Knicks were down 7 or whatever. They just seem to know how to play this team. And that is not to say that the Raptors can't beat them. I think there are some things the Raptors could do, and you heard DJ talk about some of those things, specifically putting Scotty Barnes on Jalen Brunson. I think that I think our talent is perhaps more functional against the Raps than almost any other quote unquote like good team. So yeah. Thanks, man. Danishevsky. Josh Hart put up 1-3, missed terrifically, does not initiate most possessions, was not the team's best defender, and is 6'4", yet unequivocally the player of the game. Wow. The missed 3 was bad. He didn't initiate possessions, but he was the best passer on the team tonight. Are we sure he wasn't their best defender? Like, OG had some really good defensive possessions, obviously. Bridges has been, as you know, Kevin, a defensive superstar of late. I think Hart was at least in the conversation for the best Knicks defender of the game. Obviously, Mike Brown thought he was the best defender because he gave him the defensive player of the game. I agree with you. He was the player of the game. Thanks, Kev. Riyadh, what's going on, man? Have they learned to flip the proverbial switch? And this is why I asked DJ about OKC for tomorrow and how he was going to take that. Both teams are playing on second night of back-to-back. Both teams are traveling. The Thunder are traveling from, were they home tonight or were they in Chicago tonight? They're in Chicago tonight. So Oklahoma City's traveling from Chicago. Knicks are traveling from Toronto. I imagine they'll both get to New York around the same time. Knicks obviously will sleep in their own beds. The reason I'm talking about this game is like, let's say tomorrow does not go great because no Mitch, so that means I'm assuming we're gonna get Huck 40 minutes, which again, the thing about this Thunder defense is like if there is any weak spot on your offense, there is no better defense in the league at exploiting that weak spot. And I'm going to be a little fearful when Huck is out there because it's just I just don't think it's going to go great. So how much am I going to take? How much should we take from that game? Like if the Knicks, go out there and play pretty well, play hard, and like lose by 15, is that because they didn't flip the switch? I don't know. That said, I agree with DJ. It is a good data accumulation game. Look, it's not like do I think they're going to execute and play with really great effort every game for the rest of the year? No, but like they snapped out of the 2-9 funk. It feels like they've rounded some sort of a corner. Maybe famous last words. I don't know, Riyadh. Check back with me in a few weeks. That's my answer. It's the best I got. Mr. Vito, what's going on, man? 2 years in, is Cat finally embracing his role? Impactful night after night. Let's fucking go Knicks. Different role. Like Tibbs had him do one thing. You might say let him do one thing. Mike Brown had a very specific set of thoughts and requirements. And that was a tough process. It seems like things are going well right now. Watching Cat, he certainly looks like a player that is fully bought into everything that he is being asked to do. I would say, again, other than the kind of stuff that we usually identify, which is, okay, can you get him the ball against smalls, like in good position? Like, what are you going to do when he gets those situations? And like, are you properly spaced? Is Hart cramping? All the things we talk about. He's giving you pretty much everything you could want right now. So I don't know, is you want to call it embracing his role, whatever it is, it's the best he's looked all year, certainly. And then it's just a question of like, are they better off right now than they were offensively last year? And I think you probably have to say they are, because lest we forget, the last 3.5 months of the last regular season were not fun often to watch, this starting five in particular. Thanks, Mr. Vito. Iceman Sham with another one. Is this the best Hart, OG, and McCall played as a defensive trio? San Antonio was pretty good. Their performance against San Antonio was pretty good. I thought, just given the quality of opponent, I was personally a little bit more impressed by the San Antonio game, especially since OG, and I wrote a newsletter about it today, shameless plug for the Knicks Film School newsletter on Substack. I included a dozen clips, OG clips, in the newsletter, and I had another 6 that I would have put in if I could have fit a little bit more. He was otherworldly, and Bridges was awesome. I think Bridges was the defensive player of the game, had 5 steals, and then Hart was really good against the Spurs. So I'll say this: I think as a defensive trio, this is the best that we have seen them play together. I don't even think there's a question about that. Like, how they're playing right now, those 3 is better than they played at any time defensively last season. This is absolutely the best they've looked. 100%. Thanks, Iceman Sham. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? The rumors of the Knicks' demise were greatly exaggerated. I got to tell you, if anybody finds the asshole who was spreading those rumors, you report him right back here to me, because I am not going to let that guy get off the hook. when I find him. We have multiple SWAT teams out there looking for that guy. Ooh, man. He's going to wish he never stepped foot out of his front door. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Knicks, by the way, up to 7th in defense. Pretty good. 0.3 points per 100 possessions, by the way, behind the vaunted Houston Rockets defense. And now ahead of the Minnesota defense. Ahead of Toronto, ahead of Minnesota, ahead of Phoenix, ahead of all these teams. The only teams that have better defenses than the Knicks, Rockets barely, Celtics barely, and then Heat, Spurs, Pistons, Thunder. Anyway, Kevin, it's funny. I actually saw this super chat before, so I know what's coming. All right, John, breathe. Tibbs hate incoming. This isn't Tibbs hate. The team feels so much fresher than it did last year at the same time. Josh, whose minutes were most egregious, especially. Yeah, 100%. Kevin, go a step further. Like, they're just better. They're playing better. Like, again, there were little stretches last year after January 1st where they played well. Like, when we reflect back on last season, there is, I think, that some mild erasure, not saying by you, but just in general, of here, I'm pulling it up right now, of the stretch that they had in February. Hold on. Yeah, where they had a win against the Hawks. No, sorry, late January. Win against the Hawks, a closer than it should have been win at Brooklyn. And then 3 straight monstrous wins against the Kings where they put up 143. Grizzlies put up 143. Denver, it ended up only being a 10-point win, but they really gobsmacked Denver. And then the next game was against the Lakers where OG got hurt in the first half. And I think that wasn't the game that Brunson turned his ankle. No, that was the game that OG and then they were up and down for a little while after that. But like the team, like, so there was a stretch after January 1st last year where they did kind of hit a stride, but like, I don't know. By and large, the way they're playing right now, for as much as, the Pistons game was a really unfortunate night. The further we get away from that Pistons game, even with the Cavs game coming like less than a week after it, I don't know. It feels, things feel pretty good right now about how they're playing. Not just the wins, it's how they're playing. They're playing well. Like, they played well against San Antonio, really well against San Antonio. They played well tonight. I know this was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. They played well tonight. They played well against the Bucks. They played really well in the fourth quarter against the Rockets, and then obviously the Bulls game closer than it should have been, but like they made the plays that, like, they've won 5 or 6. Things are good. Things are good. Thanks, Kev. Oscar, what's going on, man? Win number 40. Bring on OKC. Sohan for Mitch tomorrow. Let's go Knicks. I would like that personally. Like you've been talking about, Sohan obviously didn't get the call tonight. Muhammad got the call. Had some nice moments. Had some not nice moments. I would try it. Again, and that's not to say that Huck has been terrible. He hasn't. He's been good defensively. But like, what's the term DJ used? Information gathering. If Mitch isn't going to play, why don't you gather some information about what 10 minutes or 12 minutes or even just try him at the 5 in the first half. If it doesn't go well, put in Huck Porty in the second half. Like, I don't know. I just don't think you have much to lose. So that's where I'm at, Oscar. Thanks, man. Oh, goodness. Mark is warning me. All right. This is a super chat from Mink Daddy, a.k.a. Fred Katz. KFS has never been so unlikable. They spend no time talking about Dean Wade. No heart, no soul. I can't wait till the end of the season when Andrew could blow this up and have Benji do every post game. That was good, Fred. That was good. You know what? I deserved every word of it. That's the best part. You are nothing if not fair. We should have more Dean Wade centric content on the channel. I will agree with that. Shout out to Fred and Cats and Shoot and The Athletic. Hush Zoo next up. Great game, good defense. I'm glad we find out. I'm glad to find out we can now bear hug and have wrestling matches in the NBA. Atrocious referee job, but we move. Yeah, I thought the whistle was shit in the first half. I thought it equalized in the second half. I thought it was a really bad whistle in the first half. And you guys know me, I don't usually spend time talking about the whistle, complaining about the whistle. I thought the whistle was one-sided in the first half. And it was noticeable to me. Thanks, Hush. John Leary, what's going on? The Knicks are 12-0 against the Darko-coached Raptors. Did this streak start when they sued the Raptors? Maybe that's when this really started. I forget. The funny thing about Toronto, here's the thing about Toronto that's interesting. They've had a really successful season. They are, after this game even, they are 35-26. It's like any objective Raptors fan has to look at this season as a success, considering their over-under before the year was 36.5 or whatever it was. They've already almost crossed that. And yet, Sean, shout out to Sean with a W, who's all over what every other NBA team's fan base is kind of saying about their team. Apparently, there's a lot of Raptors fans that are just kind of already ready to blow this team up. Because they're we've topped out. We're, this is and their record against top 10 teams is not good. So I don't know. I think there's some good stuff going on in Toronto, but Barnes, clearly good job by them continuing to invest in him. I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know where they go. Be an interesting offseason for them. I wonder. They are briefly. The team that you have to be afraid of, I'm not even talking about this in connection with the Knicks, but in general, the team that you have to be afraid of for the Giannis sweepstakes, and there will be a sweepstakes this summer, is the team that has nothing to lose. And it's so funny because a decade ago, almost, the Raptors were almost in the exact same position where they had literally been to a conference finals and they were we've topped out. And so, Kawhi becomes available and they call up San Antonio. I was can we get in on this? And San Antonio was yeah, sure. We'll take DeRozan and the Pirtle pick. And it's not going to obviously come that cheap to get Giannis, and you're going to need to include draft compensation. And there is a point obviously where the amount of draft compensation would become unpalatable for Toronto, who I believe has all of their picks. But again, we have no idea what Milwaukee wants. There is a possibility that Milwaukee is going to just want to get a lot of current NBA talent in addition to some draft assets. So, I don't know. I'm just they're a team to me worth keeping an eye on this summer. That's all. Thanks, John. IMG2, we got to do something about the starting five. We can't start the first and third quarter so slow in the playoffs. So this was probably the biggest talking point during the watch along, because as you know, or if you've watched the show, I've been harder on the starting five than anybody. And I feel like I know it when I see it. It's like the Supreme Court's definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. I feel like when I see the starting five go out there and lollygag and pussyfoot around, I know it. I did not personally feel that way watching tonight. I don't think DJ did either. Now, look, they were a minus 12 up until the end of the game when they flipped the switch and it looked great. I think DJ phrased it really well, and I've said similar things in the past. If at some point they made the decision to make a change, whether that change was Mitch, whether that change is it's not. I mean, at this point, it's not going to be Deuce because he's he's hurt and they're not going to like go from him being out for 2 months to him being the starting five. But like, if it was Shamit, I'd be like, all right, let's give it a look. And yet I could sit here with some level of confidence and say they're not going to do that. And the reason they're not going to do it is the same reason why Mike Brown's assistant coaches all went to him, whatever it was, 3 weeks into the season and said, like, all due respect, you got to start Josh Hart. And you watch Hart play the game like he played tonight when he's my player of the game. And you watch him in the second half against San Antonio start to figure out the defense that they were playing against him. And it's like, all right, and you go down the list. Like, again, I've kind of pitched half-heartedly the idea of bringing Bridges off the bench. You're not going to do that. I know every time I bring it up, not that I bring it up a lot, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And that's it. Those are the only two spots. So I don't know. Again, if he did it, I would trust that he has a good enough read on the internal temperature of his locker room to feel confident that he could do it and it's not going to throw off the balance. And I'd be all for it. I mean that. I'd be all for it. But I'm just telling you, I don't think it's going to happen. And for as hard as I've been on this starting five, and God knows I've been hard on them, the notion that they continue to roll forward with them is no longer insane to me. I will say that. We'll see what they do. Not a crazy comment, by the way, just to be clear. Paul McFarline, second double-digit win while shooting 35% or worse from three. Did they shoot 35% or worse from three? Pulling it up right now. 34%. Impressive. How many attempts? 29 attempts. Okay. Winning with defense and rebounding is a 2024 again. You know what the funniest thing is about 2024? Sorry to go off on this very brief tangent. Their defense in the 2024 playoffs stunk. I was looking at the numbers yesterday. Their defense in those playoffs was terrible. Like, they didn't defend worth a goddamn against Philadelphia, save for like 1 fourth quarter in game 4 when they defended great. But like, they didn't really defend against Philly. And then against Indiana, like, yeah, they defended the first 2 games and then everything went to shit. Their defense, this is the honest man. It's not the best defense we've seen from the Knicks period, because the We Here season, I think they ranked 4th. This is the way they're defending right now. Honestly, this might be the best defense of the Brunson era. That's crazy, but it might be true. Yeah, I don't know. Thanks, Paul. Danny Small, what's up, my guy? Legit star power, deepest team in the East, tons of experience, flexible lineups, definitive Eastern Conference favorite. Detroit can't shoot. Embrace it, John. Don't equivocate. This is going to be the conversation going into the playoffs. About, let's say the Knicks keep playing well, and there's no reason to think that they won't. And let's say they finish, what do they have, 20 games left? I don't know. Let's say they finish, let's go nuts. Let's say they finish 14-6, which I think would be a lot to expect given some of the games they have left on the schedule. I don't think it's crazy, to be very clear. Don't think it's nuts. I would not go any further than that. I think it's more likely it's 12-8 or 13-7, but let's say 54 wins, most wins the team has had, or tying the 2012-13 team for the most wins since 96-97. And they play really good the whole stretch. Can you call that team the favorite if the number 1 seed in the conference beat them by a combined 80 points? if you heard my podcast yesterday with Jeremy, he continues to lean back on this notion of like we saw last year, just because something is true in the regular season does not make it true in the playoffs. I have pushed back against that notion fairly hard throughout the year, for a variety of reasons. I do think there is a play harder, play with more physicality, be more locked in button to push should they face Detroit again. Can you call them the definitive? You cannot call them the definitive anything. You can't call anybody in the East the definitive anything. To say nothing of the fact that Jason Tatum is going to be playing basketball in a couple of days. Is there a world where I could see we make the argument that they are the favorites in the East once we get to April 15th or whatever the hell the playoffs start? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not I can't go there tonight. But I think we could get there again. So we'll see. Thanks, Danny. Riyadh with another one. Can Brendan O'Connor get some love? Finally, he's been willing to try things out, which looked horrible at times, but stuck with it and has struck gold. Yeah, I mean, I think their entire coaching staff, like both coordinators, I think deserve a lot of him and Chris Gent. I think both deserve a lot of credit. I think Mike Brown deserves a ton of credit for leaning on those guys. He's talked openly about how much he has leaned on his staff throughout the year. Like, really, from a coaching perspective, I really, other than the fact that Brown and Cat haven't maybe had the most hunky-dory relationship throughout this entire season, I don't know how you could be really critical of this coaching staff. Like, there was whatever the hell was going on with them during that 2-9 stretch. Every team, we even said it at the time, even as I was losing my mind, I was cognizant of the fact that like every team goes through those stretches. Whatever. Coaching staff has done a great job. Great job. Good call out by you, Riyadh. Obozine 29. What's going on? One of the most Josh Hart games I've ever seen from Josh Hart. Let's catch Boston for the 2 seed. Let's go Knicks. I mean, we're not quite at the point where we could start looking at like individual games left, but like last night, I watched most of the game, Boston against Milwaukee, and I knew. So again, shout out to our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. I had put a bet on the game early in the day. I put a bet on the over once they announced that Giannis was coming back, because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Boston, we know, scores a ton of points. Milwaukee with Giannis back. I liked the number. And then literally a half an hour after I placed the bet, they announced that Jaylen Brown was going to be sitting out. So I'm like, fuck. That's okay. So I'm like, let me sit down. I'll watch the game. And within 5 minutes of the game, I was like, oh, Boston's going to steamroll tonight. This Bucks team is so out on this season. And I actually think the fact that you would have expected Giannis coming back to inspire them. It did the opposite. They're like, I literally, you could see in their effort, they're just like, fuck this. That team wanted no part of playing a coherent basketball game. I went back into the app and I slid the thing all the way up and I took Boston by the maximum allowable points to cover. I think I got it at 15.5, which of course they covered easily, and it made my night. So shout out to Fanatics for that. But here's the point. Yeah, Milwaukee's a train wreck, but this Celtics team, again, no Jaylen Brown last night, no Kata last night. It didn't matter. They just go out there. They're a well-oiled machine. I saw there was a brief conversation in Chat BCC and chatnix.com. Everybody, if you're not in the chat, what are you doing? About Missoula being the runaway favorite, like runaway winner at this point for Coach of the Year. I completely agree. I think you could give him the award today, even if his former assistant, right? I always forget the name of the freaking Hornets head coach. Is making a late charge. Right? I think you have to at least consider what they're doing down in Charlotte. This is going to annoy me now. Who's their head coach? Charles Lee, of course. Duh. And Bickerstaff will get his but it's, to me, it's Missoula. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry. But like Boston, like the notion, like we could go 14-6, which would be great. 54 wins. That's awesome. I'm not like 100% sure that we would catch Boston. We probably would. Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They have the 6th toughest schedule in the league. So I can give you the whole schedule right now. 2 against OKC, 1 against San Antonio, 1 more against the Knicks. Obviously, that looms large late in the season. Last weekend, I think. 1 against the Wolves, 1 against the Cavs, 1 against the Raptors. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got 1 against the Wizards, 1 against the Pelicans, 1 against the Mavs, 1 against the Grizzlies, 1 against the Bucks. So how many games did I just reel off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 5. So it only lists 12, and like the rest of the games will be against middling teams. But like, they're going to beat all those teams that they're supposed to beat. They're going to knock off a couple of these good teams. I mentioned it again with Jeremy on the show. They play the Hornets 3 times left in the season. Like, those games are going to be really big. If you're from a Knicks perspective, if you want if you want to catch the Celtics, put on your old 1995 Charlotte Hornets starter jacket and start rooting, because the Hornets are going to have to get some of those games if you really want to catch them. We'll see. Thanks, Obozine. All right, we got we're due. Yeah, we can do it now, Mark, if you want. Or yeah, do this, then that. Hush, give some love to Josh. Incredible passer to cutters. Probably one of the most underrated parts of his game. 10-0 against the kids is crazy. DJ said it on his Patreon film session. You could argue that if you just list all of the skills a basketball player could have, you could argue that Josh Hart is the most skilled player on the team. And it's not a facetious statement. Yes, Brunson is obviously a different level with some stuff, but Hart's better than Brunson at some stuff. He's a better defender. You could argue he's a better passer, honestly. And I don't even think it's that crazy of an argument. He's a better rebounder. He's good at so many different things, which is why we cannot, I said it after this Spurs game, we cannot talk about this player as if he is Tony Allen or Andre Roberson, whatever. He's too good. He's too skilled, and it's worth it for him to try to figure out these defenses, even if it remains a work in progress, and even if there are going to be moments where you got to pull the plug. Thanks, Hush. All right, now we're going to do our yeah, absolutely. Yes. Put me in the mood. I love being in the mood. What is Mood? You've heard me talk about Mood before. And it is mood.com, which is, of course, the gummy cannabis company that is not one size fits all, but it is specifically designed for how you want to engage with your gummies. Functional gummies is the term that I was searching for, of course. 100-day product guarantee, all kinds of nifty bells and whistles. Here's the important part. Use the code KFS at mood.com to get 20% off. So if you're looking for functional gummies that fit your mood, again, go to mood.com and use code KFS for 20% off your first order. What play most put me in the mood tonight? We got several contenders from that fourth quarter. It is a choice between the JB3 that made it 100-93 or Josh Hart snatching the rebound from Pirtle or Josh Hart making that pass to Bridges for the dunk. Those are the three contenders. What most put me in the mood? I'm sorry, Josh. I got to go with the Brunson. The honest answer is the Brunson triple. The Brunson triple was awesome. It's JB, man. What can you say? He rocks. So that's the play that most put me in the mood. Shout out to Mood. Again, mood.com. Use code KFS. And then for our stat of the game, Jonah Kaufman's Nito stat of the game, intern extraordinaire, 29 3-point attempts. This was, oh, wow, this is a really good stat. This is only the fourth time this season the Knicks took fewer than 30 threes. Now, here's the real stat. 4-0 in those games. Those games are coming against the Magic, the Hornets, and the Rockets, and now Toronto. Interesting mix of teams there. 3 very physical defenses, and then the Hornets, who I remember that Hornets game. That was an easy game. They kind of got whatever they wanted in that game. I think they just wanted to go on the interior. With Toronto's 28 3-point attempts is the fewest total threes taken by both teams in a Knicks game this season, tied with the Houston game. Knicks made 10 threes tonight, 34.5% from deep. And then that hit the 34% cutoff that seems to determine the team's outcome for success this season. Yes, that is a bright line number. To me, this is, even though it's over 34%, this is still impressive to me that they won this game because they had a lot of good looks from 3 tonight that I thought did not go in. And the fact that they still won the game pretty convincingly at the end of the day. So it's a good quality win. It's a good quality win for the Knicks. Really was a good quality win. Okay. Thanks, Jonah. That was great. Okay. Let's hit the home stretch here. Walt Clyde Frazier, national media needs to start talking about the Knicks defense. The only rotation guys who aren't plus defenders are Cat and Brunson. Only gets crazier with Deuce. Let's hope Deuce makes it back healthy for the playoffs. Obviously, we got some encouraging news on that front this week, which I should have noted. Cat's not playing like a minus defender right now. He's just not. He's playing like at worst, an average defender, which is, if he can just be this in the playoffs, I mean, again, it's 19 games, and you're absolutely right. Like, I think as a fan base, just like every fan base feels disrespected by the national media, I think Knicks fans collectively do at times go over the top with like, oh, why aren't they talking about this or that or the other thing? The fact that they've had the best defense in the league for almost a quarter of the season now, like, that has to be talked about. How does that not get talked about at least a little bit? I'm plugging it in right now. Since January 20th, 19 games. They're 15-4. Their defensive rating is 103. The next closest defensive rating is 106.3. Belongs to who? Who else? Fucking Boston. And of course, the Knicks, the best net rating in that time. Who's number 2? Boston. Who's number 3? Charlotte. Who's number 4? Cleveland. Everybody could fuck off with the East is secondary citizens takes. All right? Thanks, Walt Clyde Frazier. Mr. Vito with another one. Another arm hookless night for Cat. Hashtag keeping tabs. Good call by you. Again, largely non-existent since the All-Star break. This is becoming a very real thing. And again, I know his plus minus wasn't spectacular tonight. It's still +7. But like, he's giving you everything, pretty much everything you wanted. Thanks, Mr. Vito. All right, we got a couple here coming up from, look, Andrew Claudio. What a coincidence. Hashtag don't stop believing. Hashtag deep breaths Macri. Appreciate that. And then another one from Andrew. 3rd in offense, 7th in defense, 5th in net rating. Just a really good basketball team. It's a good basketball team that is playing good. And by the way, 5th in net rating, I'm looking at it right now. San Antonio plus 6.3 per 100 possessions. Knicks plus 6.3 per 100 possessions. Now, that San Antonio number is going to go up by a lot because they won by 8,000 points tonight. Thanks, Philly, for playing none of your guys. So, yeah, the Knicks are going to stay squarely in 5th, but they're a whole point ahead of Houston, and they're almost 2 points ahead of Denver. So, you know, it is insane that the fucking Celtics have a plus 8.6 net rating. That would be first in the league in some years. Again, Missoula, coach of the year. It's not close. Thanks, Andrew. Hope all is well with you. Kevin Danishevsky, hashtag 53 win pace. I want 55 to erase GMAC's beloved 2012-13. Why do we need to erase 12-13? I know you're being facetious, but still. It's a shame that team, with every additional good season for this group, that team gets more and more, will get more and more like, not lost to time, but like, I think every additional positive season impacts how we think about and maybe how we remember that year, because people, justifiably so, for a very long time held that team and that era in such high regard. And it's going to, unfairly or not, get compared to this era. And it's just, you know, and yet, what does people still talk about? People still talk about Bernard King and the series against the Pistons and those couple of years in the mid 80s before Ewing. So people will probably always talk about that year and that era, if you could call it an era. You could call it an era, the Melo era. Yeah. Be interesting how we talk about that team in like 15 years, but I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Kev. Kevin Stokes, what's going on? Josh Hart, incredible tonight. His second quarter was the best he's played all season. DOR for president, ignoring the turnovers. Yeah, you know, the Raptors are the 4th best team in the league at generating turnovers. What do we have tonight? 17, 18, I'm assuming. 18. So 22 points off those turnovers. Yeah, not great, but it's literally the best thing the Raptors do. So, yeah. Thanks, Kev. Bradford Taylor, thanks for the generous contribution. Cat's been playing his best defense of the year, 100%, and now the offense is coming along too. Zubac level defensive impact with way more offensive upside. Okay, if he keeps this up, we're unstoppable. Wow. So throwing Cat's name into the same sentence as Zubac in terms of defense, that's lofty praise. Is it crazy? Not the way he's been playing lately, it isn't. Way more offensive upside. Yes. If he keeps this up, we're unstoppable. I just want to see them on those possessions where it feels like they are just striving to get him the ball and they can't always do it. And then occasionally when they do it, it doesn't always turn into something. It is literally the last bridge for me that I want to see this team cross on offense. Defense, I've seen them cross all. This again, I know they're a better offensive team than defensive team. Defensively, I've seen them cross all the bridges I need to see. No pun intended. I'm there. I'm good. You've sold me on this team's defensive upside being enough to win a championship. You got to sell me on like 5% more on the offensive end, because ultimately the defense as being a top 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something in that range defense is good enough if the offense doesn't have to be the best offense in the league, but it has to be not matchup proof, but like kind of sort of matchup proof, which is again why I feel like tomorrow night is a good day. Like DJ said, it's a good data gathering game. Like, what are they going to do? How are they going to be able to spring Cat more than we have seen Cat be sprung against these sorts of defenses? It's a big game. It's a big game for us to see what they got in store. And I'll be curious to see. Thanks, Bradford. OG team, Mike Brown is fully bought into this set of players playing and may have found a consistent rotation asterisk until Deuce returns, of course. So we can look at the minutes tonight. Let's look at the minutes. Interesting minutes distribution. Why did OG only play 27 minutes? I must have missed something. He had 4 fouls. So maybe that was as simple as that. I don't know. Brunson 37, Bridges 32, Hart 31, Cat 29, OG 27, Shamet 24, Jose 17, Mo 19, Mitch 20. I mean, again, people are going to want to hear this. I think it could be as simple as giving Mo's minutes to Deuce. Not all of them, most of them. Shave off some of Shamet. Yeah. I think they're going to be fine when Deuce comes back. I think it's going to be okay. And yes, Mike Brown, I think he loves the set of players that he has, and I think he knows how to use them now. I think he's got a consistent set of rotations that makes sense for this team. Thanks, man. This one was for DJ. We'll have to get this to him at a later time. Jeffrey Glenn, DJ, what's the ceiling for the defense? I mean, I think I'll answer that in the way that I think DJ would answer it, which is to say we are seeing the ceiling. They're the best defense in the league for, like I said, almost a quarter of the NBA season. Now, is their ceiling the best defense in the league? I think that's probably a little strong. But like right now, today, they are 0.4, not 4 points, 0.4 points per 100 possessions away from being the 5th best defense in the league. Their ceiling is a top 5 defense. I don't think that that's crazy at all. You know, like, can they consistently reach the level defensively that the Thunder or the Pistons or even the Spurs do because of Wemby? No. Those 3 teams, for different reasons, are in a tier of their own. The 4th best defense in the league is the Miami Heat. You're telling me the Knicks defense can't be as good as the Miami Heat's defense? I love Bam Adebayo. I have all the respect in the world for Spo. It's at least a conversation to me. And then all these other teams, like the Knicks are already on the level of all these other teams. So their ceiling, top 5 defense. That's it. Thanks, Jeff. Joseph Zacola, what's going on, Joseph? Loved the way they weathered the storm in the first and especially in the fourth. They're staying connected, playing Unreal D, and both Hart and Cat were huge. Let's fucking go Knicks. You make a great point, Joseph, which is that this game, like, again, we're going to look at this and we're going to say, oh, it was a 16-point win. Like, what, it's easy. It's the Raptors. They beat the Raptors a million times in a row. You're absolutely right. They needed to withstand a punch in the first quarter. I thought they actually took a punch in the second quarter when they went out ahead. 37-31, and the Raptors immediately pushed back, and it's like, all right, we got to climb this hill again. And they did climb the hill again, got up by 10. Then they had to withstand another punch in the third quarter when they got up by 10, and the Raptors got it to within either 2 or 4 in the third. And then they went up again, and the Raptors pushed back again with, what was it? An 8-0 run, I think, or it's some kind of run in the fourth quarter run with RJ and Quigley. 4 pushes they had to withstand, and they pushed back every time. And it wasn't even, and they did it smartly. And it's not like they got lucky or any of those sorts of things. Like, I keep saying it. This was an impressive little win. Really was. So yeah, shout out to them. All right, we got 2 here from Find Your New York Captain. Let's go with Captain. Been a while. What happened to Robert Cross? He's around. I owe him a DM. Robert's good. Robert's good. He's had an up and down season, but he's around. I'll pass along your well wishes. And then next up, last post game I saw you were ready to break up the team, rightfully. Isn't it crazy how up and down we are? I really do think that they've been coasting and bickering. I wonder if we could get Clyde to adopt that. The biggest question I have about this team, and probably the only question I have about this team at this point, is how much of the inconsistency and the performances that have really driven us crazy, how much of that is purely a result of on-court stuff, whether that is coasting, whether that is X's and O's problems. I guess really just those two things. It's got to be one or the other. And how much of that how much of those periods were maybe locker room driven? Is there a mix? Or how much of it was just, despite all of us going crazy, me going crazy, how much of that was just normal course of NBA season stuff? As always, when it comes to this stuff, the truth lies somewhere in between. Probably aren't going to get the answer, but, look, it'll depend on how far they go, obviously, but the postmortem on this season, whenever it's written, is going to be a very interesting one to read, and it felt like by the time all was said and done and like Tibbs was out and the whole thing, like we got a good read on like what last season actually was and like what was kind of happening. I'll be curious if we could get the same thing this season. But whatever it is, they seem to have corrected a lot of it. So, yeah. Ghost of Knicks. Nice name. Do you think we could go 15-5 for 55 wins? So you're only giving them 4 more losses? Shit. Do I think they can? Even if let's assume. So I'm skipping the next 4 games on purpose. Let's assume they beat starting in March 11th. And this is going to be tough because the Utah game is the 4th game of a road trip. The Indiana game is the 5th game of a road trip. Let's say they win those games. And then they beat Golden State with, I don't know who the hell is playing for Golden State at this point. They're not playing well. They beat Golden State, beat Indiana, beat Brooklyn, beat Washington, beat New Orleans. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are we giving them a 7-game winning streak? I never want the notion that we're just gonna like pencil in 6 in a row or 7 in a row like doesn't sit right with me. Let me mark that down as 6-1. And let's go after that. After that, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games of the season. Charlotte at OKC, at Houston, at Memphis, which should be easy, but 4th game of a road trip. Chicago, at Atlanta, Boston, Toronto, Charlotte. You end with 3 straight at home. Seeding may be locked up for Toronto at least. Charlotte, OKC, Houston, Memphis, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, Toronto, Charlotte. Can they go 6-3 there? Yeah, you go 6-3. That's not crazy. So let's give him 6-3 there to add to 6-1. So that's 12-4, which brings us back to the next 4 games. OKC, Denver, LA. So then they would need to go 3-1. So, can they? Yeah, they can. My ceiling, my personal ceiling outcome would be 14-6, and I would sign for 13-7, and I'd be pretty happy with 13-7. Give them 53 wins, which is what I predicted before the season. I think that is the most likely outcome. Although, man, if they go, let me put it this way: if they go out to MSG tomorrow and beat OKC, then I might be more willing to have this conversation. As of right now, 15-5. That's tough. That's tough. Thanks, Ghost of Knicks. Good question. Brian, what's going on, Brian? It's like everyone said, Tibbs had to go so we could bring in a head coach that could coach up defense. Yeah, we joked about this and then during the monologue. I just know Tibbs is somewhere watching film and smiling. I don't know. It's a pleasant thought that Tibbs would be happy with what's going on. My guess is that's not the case, but yeah. Anyway, thanks, man. Appreciate you. And then last one, of course, from Fred Katz, because who else would it be from? Mink Daddy. What separates Hart from other non-shooters is not just the passing, but the recognition. His ability to find creases on the court and also quickly go into DHOs to create 2-on-1 advantages is legit elite. Yes, I agree. What is interesting to me, and it came up in a comment to the newsletter today or yesterday, when somebody basically was like, Josh Hart needs to continue to tap into his inner Draymond Green, to which my gut reaction was like, yes, at the same time, Brunson and Curry are such different players. And I know there was talk before the season started, and I'll be curious. I'll have to ask Fred this next time he's on the pod, or next time I go on Cats and Shoot, which you could go subscribe to on patreon.com, about, how much the off ball, the version of Brunson that was talked about before the season, how much of that had they actually really leaned into that? They've definitely leaned into it some, but even with what they've already done to exploit that more, the notion that Brunson and Hart could be, no one could be stuffing Dre, because they're the best two-man combination the league has seen in the last 20 years, 15 years, whatever it is. But it doesn't change the fact that, as you are saying, Fred, Hart is elite at these specific things, and they are skilled enough as a team to be able to exploit that for their advantage when teams guard him in the ways that they are guarding him. And that should not be seen as a disadvantage. We have to get to the place, and we're not quite there yet, but we ideally will get there. And maybe this is the biggest thing that we should be looking for from now until the end of the regular season. Can the Knicks get to the place where every time teams try center on hard coverages, the Knicks are ecstatic? The Knicks are like, yes, bring it on. We want this. We will punish this, and feel confident that they could do. That's a lot to ask. But, when you're trying to win a championship, the bar is high. Thanks, Fred. And then one more, Danny Small, 15-5. What about 20-0? Sure, why not? End the season on a what would that be? A 23-game winning streak? Yeah. Look, again, best net rating in the league last 19 games. So, and what are they? 16 and how many games have they lost in their last? They're 15-4. Over their last 19, so theoretically they should be able to go 15-5 over their next 20, right? It's not nuts. What a crazy season they've had. 3 losses in a row back in October. Then awesome. Then 2-9. Then awesome. Then rough patch. Now back to being awesome. What a team. What a very interesting basketball team. All right. That's it. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to mercifully let Mark go to bed. And I'm going to write a newsletter about another very, as I've said 18 different times tonight, a very nice little Knicks win. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Reminder, watch party on Sunday. Make sure you're coming out for that to Penn 6. Make sure you give this video a like. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your pods. Subscribe on YouTube. Ratings, reviews, all the good stuff. We appreciate you. Yes, that link, if you want to RSVP for the watch party, tinyurl.com/KFS brunch. On behalf of DJ Zulo and Mark Roskis, I am Jonathan Macri. This has been another edition of the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I will be back tomorrow night for your postgame after, who knows, hopefully another Knicks win. We will see. In the meantime, take care.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.